Hey guys, Danny Johnson here, and today we're going to be installing the clutch quadrant and adjuster kit for Maximum Motorsports. This is the MMCP-51. What I really like about the clutch cable they give you is it's single length. It's not threaded on the end. Those adjustable ones always seem to come apart and just get loose. So this is, I think, even a Ford cable. It looks a little different than the factory one. But they give you the Firewall adjuster in here as well, and of course the clutch quadrant with all the washers. And so we'll go over a full installation here. So next we're going to put the car up in the air. Remember, this is all dangerous, so you perform this at your own risk. I'm just showing you how I would do it. And we're going to put a jack stand under the front and make sure that the car is properly secured, not going to come down. We're going to chock the rear wheels, especially the driver's side and the passenger side, since when you get the front of the car up in the air, the passenger side is going to be the most planted. So also just make sure the car's in gear and the handbrake is up. So under the car, we're going to go ahead and find our clutch cover here. And so this is a 10mm bolt that we're just going to take out. And so as soon as you unthread this cover just slides off and away from the transmission. So we're going to go ahead and slide this out of the way. And this is our clutch fork with the cable on it here. This is a factory setup. And so next we're going to use a pry bar to gently push forward on the clutch fork, and we're going to unloop the cable for the clutch out of it. So it just unloops like this, and there's also a little C-clip in here, so take a pair of pliers or whatnot and pull that out, and now you can pull the clutch cable all the way through and out at the bottom. This is what the factory cable looks like. It comes down here and it does mount to the side of the car. So if you look down in here, there is one little 8mm bolt that's holding the bracket in place. So I was able to reach it with a 1/4-inch drive with the 8mm on it. It fits down in there okay. It's kind of a tight fit, but I was able to get down in there and loosen that up. So go ahead and remove that little screw there. Okay, from under the car, the clutch pedal is on the left, but the quadrant's actually by the gas pedal. So you can remove the rear seat, and I have a video on that. I'll put in the description if you want. We're going to go after the factory clutch quadrant here. So we're going to pull down on this little cotter pin here. And then since the cable is already loose from under the car, which makes it a lot easier, we're going to just slide this quadrant off. And so the clutch cable is connected right here to the front of it. So we're going to go ahead and just pull this back and just shake it loose. It just unlatches from there. And there's also another little block up here, a little plastic piece that you can see. And so it has a cotter pin too that we'll remove. So just reach up in there. I used a flathead screwdriver, a little small one, to just get into the end of it, and you can pull that out. And again, little screwdriver helped to get right in the end of it and just pull it down. That or some pliers. And it's on there pretty firm. And so there is another spring that's involved that's kind of next to it. So if you get a screwdriver up and in there, you might be able to feel it around and wiggle that until the spring comes off. And it's up in there pretty good. You can kind of see on the left side of this block, you can see the spring, how it's wound around. So you just want to get your screwdriver under that to unloop it. But as soon as you get the spring detached from that, then you'll be able to wiggle this piece right off. Okay, so next we're going to go ahead and go back outside, and under the hood we're able to pull the cable forward. There's usually little prongs that go around the front of it. They break off. You're not going to need them anyway, but you can then pull the cable out slightly, and that just gives you a little bit more room, because now we're going to be taking off these two little screws. It's going to be actually a 5mm. That's really small. And we're going to go ahead and take off the top and the bottom screws that are holding that little housing piece on. So this one here on the top, that one on the bottom. So Maximum Motorsports gives you a 1/4-inch drive socket is what you'll need for their hardware to put back in. So we're going to go ahead and disassemble the firewall adjuster. We're going to unscrew it until it's into its two pieces. And then we're just putting this bottom piece in and mounting it right back into that hole. And we're going to put their hardware in. So go ahead and just line it back up, slide it in, and put the hardware back in. Next, we're going to thread this back in. I would put it about halfway out. And now we're going to look at our new clutch cable here. They give you this additional spacer, and I tried it without it. It needed it in my case, so we're going to go ahead and put this on, and we're going to put this little piece down in here. It just kind of locks it in place, and so it is free floating. So they give you a piece of heat shrink. So you're going to take this heat shrink tube, and you're going to slide it over the top of it, and then just heat it up with a heat gun or even a lighter just from some distance. The heat shrink will shrink around it and hold that in place. So that's what it looks like. I tried it without it. I definitely needed it, so it's on there. Okay, as for the bracket coming off of the old cable, you can bend it up with some pliers, put it onto the car. I'd put it on the cable now. This is what it looks like. And so down in here, you can see we just put our little 8mm bolt back in, and it lines up into a little hole as well for a little nub that's coming off of it. Now our cable is going to come through here, and this one, their factory cable they give you, slides right in. It's very nice. The factory OEM cable, if you're using a Ford one, you would have to do some trimming and move some pieces. I had to do it on my Mach 1, and anyway, you got to make sure that cable will fit in there. Next, I'm routing the cable right next to the old one. I would leave the old one in place just so that you can follow it and put it right where the old one goes so that you don't get confused or forget on where it goes. And now we're going to just thread our new cable right through the hole on the transmission. Okay, so we're going to push that in, and now we're going to bring in our little C-clip. So it should be coming through like this. You have to pull that cable quite a bit, and then make sure your little C-clip goes back into place to hold that still. At this point too, make sure that you push the cable so that there's more slack up underneath the dashboard. But as you can see, we're just following that same pathway that the old cable took. And this is a Fiore brand clutch quadrant. I really like this one. The Steeda ones had two hooks, one in front and back of where this one was. It looks like Maximum Motorsports is almost identical to that one that I had, so I really liked it. So this is the clutch quadrant here. This is what it looks like. And they give you some washers. So they're going to give you on the right 2 thick washers, and then the rest of them are all thin washers. And so they want you to pair up 2 thick ones with the 4 thin ones here in the middle. And then on the left, we have 3 more loose washers that would go on the top of the quadrant. And so I'll show you their orientation and where they go. Okay, so we'll start with our 2 thick ones and our 4 thin ones, and we'll put them all together. They're going to go on the bottom of the quadrant. And so we're going to go back here under the pedal, reaching on up in here. So on the bottom portion, that's where we put those washers. So that's going to leave you with 3 other washers. So we're going to put that on the top one. So here's our clutch quadrant we're bringing in. There's so many holes. Don't get confused with which ones. We're going to go ahead and put this one on here and slide this one up here on the top. And that's how that slides on. You could even use some more washers on the top one, in my opinion. But anyway, you just want to make sure that this slides on and that you can still see the hole that our cotter pin needs to come through here. Okay, now we're going to just make sure that our clutch cable hitches onto the top. It just goes around the quadrant. And so make sure that that goes into place. As you can see, we have our washers in place there. And so we got them on the bottom one and then also the top one with the cotter pins both in place. So make sure that those get back into place there. Okay, now we're going to unthread the adjuster. So you're going to turn it counterclockwise to thread it outwards, which would be as if you're putting more tension or stretching the cable. So we're going to do that. Then from underneath the car, what you want to do is make it so that the cable, basically, it would be kind of hard to put it in. It should be right at the point where you have to get a pry bar just to barely put it inside the hole. If you can easily loop it in, it's not going to be easy to adjust. So what I did, at least, is I put a pry bar on it, looped it in so that it had just that good amount of tension, because it's easier to loosen the firewall adjuster rather than tighten it. And so now get in the car and push it. You shouldn't have much slop in the pedal, if any at all. And as you push it down, you should feel it collapse those diaphragm fingers with the clutch fork. So as it goes through, you should feel that full travel where you're pushing and you feel it collapse and then come back out. Now start the car. If you hear this chirping, then you know it's not tight enough. That means the bearing's just barely touching those diaphragm fingers. And so you'll want to keep going counterclockwise with it. And again, that's very hard to do with all the pressure on it. So it's easier to have it a little too tight and then be able to come under here and then turn it actually clockwise to loosen it, in my opinion. So I was just getting it just right, basically over tightened it slightly, put it on with a breaker bar, and it came out just right. You want this throwout bearing to be spinning constantly, but it should only have a little bit of pressure on it, or preload as it's called. So now this worked out perfect. It's engaging just about 2 inches off of the floor, and I'm feeling a full travel as I'm pushing it to the floor, and I can feel it collapse. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. I'll make another video that's a little more detailed about actually adjusting it and some of my thoughts on it. But this is the kit. This is how it installed. Again, I really like how their kit has a cable with a solid end. All the adjustable cable ones I've had have never really worked right. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let me know in the comments what you think. Thanks, guys.